It's just another tool in your toolbox to help you lead a life that you want to lead, and giving them that sense of like, yeah, there's a future with this, even if you don't want to be a professional.
All right, I'm here with Devon Curtis. He's the head director at Oakwood Middle School, and he's also the music director and conductor of the Hollick Street Youth Symphony. Today we're going to talk about recruitment, different ideas from a practical standpoint and from an academic standpoint. So we'll just get into it right now. The last topic that I'd like to talk to you about is something that I think is done very well in the band setting, which is it's a form of the band culture, where it's like, if you're going to join band, you're going to start this journey. You're going to, you've got this hero arc that you're going to go through, where you learn the instrument, you've got the marching band, you've got the football games, and you've got the state marching band championship and all that stuff. You've got DCI drum corps. You've got this hero arc that they can participate in. And in orchestra, I think that we need to work on building our hero arc for an orchestra student. Like, what is their journey as an orchestra member going to look like? What do you think that a successful program should look like? How do we start to build that hero arc for the students, and saying, like, if you join orchestra, this is going to be your journey, and thinking of it as a beginner through,
like, all the way through high school.
Well, and hopefully beyond. Hopefully beyond.
I definitely think it's a vertical alignment thing. Like, it's something that if it can be a shared vision within a feeder system, it's even better. But I know when it comes to things I can relate to, things I've done in my own advocacy and recruiting, is I definitely emphasize on the trip side of things. That's definitely an easy start, where it's, hey, if you join us here, if you continue on, you get into sixth grade, you start getting your first, like, we go to a water park or we go to a theme park. And if you stick around, you go into middle school, you go visit Houston, you go look at this really awesome symphony, or you go to a bigger theme park outside of town. Or when you start getting into, like, high school and you stick around with it, like, the local high schools went to New York, they went to Washington, D.C., they went to Disney World, they went to Disneyland, etc. And over the summers, if you really want to, like, there are programs where you can go to Europe and perform. It's those classic, like, the movie clip things, like Steve Rogers from Captain America looks in the shape of the soldier at the museum, and he sees himself as the soldier that he wants to be. But what sort of institutions could orchestra potentially latch itself to?
There's plenty of competitions all over the place, that you could participate in. And there's something to say about walking into a musical space and having those trophies on the walls, or on the shelves or wherever they are.
Yeah.
About an orchestra doing well. And I think that helps to breed the culture of success and stuff. So that's totally something they could do. But there's also, like, a sense of numinism too, where you are part of a group that tends to propel individuals off, not necessarily within orchestra, but we tend to have, like, very high intellectually, academically achieving students. Like, if you look at our high school here, and like, how many of the valedictorians have come from the orchestra? How many of my orchestra students end up going to the Ivy Leagues? How many of them end up being leaders in the industry? I just talked to some of my students that I've had, from years ago, and it's like, okay, I'm now designing self-driving cars. I'm working for this AI company, or like, how many medical doctors graduated from this institution, and those tend to be the orchestra students. And I think that's a good selling point too, is like, if you're in orchestra, you're held to this standard, you're going to be successful. You're going to, like, this is the bar that we set, and this is where this group is going to get you. And I think that's important too.
It's connecting the culture of participation in orchestra makes you part of a club of high achievement. Orchestra is a vehicle through which their kid has better chances, at least perceived better chances, which we know the data supports better chances. But from the parents' perspective, if they know nothing about the studies of the data, the perceived chance at a higher quality life, of a higher chance of success in whatever it is that they chase after, that's a really attractive thing for recruitment.
For me, the best way to do that, to be able to take, I guess, my classroom, that modality of taking my classroom out, is to show them examples like, hey, this kid did this and this kid did that. Number one, it highlights student success, which I think is great. And number two, it gives somebody that hope of saying, like, that could be me one day. You know, I can see myself in that person and being successful and going off to do similar things. You can do that with video. You can do, getting that out. You can have presentations. You can do whatever. Word of mouth is great there. So that kind of hits all the modalities too. How do we connect to these people who are in our programs and who are potentially going to join our programs, to their parents, their community? How do we get them to engage in this numanism so that they can go on that hero's arc, that journey, and that kind of stuff with us? It's not the data. It's not the research. It's definitely something else. It's definitely something else.
So I guess that calls into question then, what are the common things that are acting as barriers? Psychological, emotional, social, community. Like, what's stopping them from wanting to participate in orchestra at this point?
Cost is probably one.
Cost is definitely one. And whether that's true or not, right? Like, data-driven, because I know for me and my kids that I work my butt off to make sure cost is not a barrier, where I have plenty of instruments in the back that if I have a kid that can't afford to rent an instrument, I'm like, here you go. And I tell them that it's a $50 rental fee for the year, which most parents are thrilled about comparatively to the monthly costs. And here's the thing is that, I don't know if I should say this on camera, but it's like, if I don't find that $50 at the end of the year and the kid was in program all year, I'm not sweating it.
Right.
It's like, I don't care. That kid participated in orchestra when their family was scared they might not. But despite all that, that doesn't change how someone who hasn't experienced that feels, in that fear of not being able to afford it, and that it seems cost prohibitive.
And time. It's like, I got to practice, but I've got all these other things I've got to do. I don't have time to practice. So that fear of time might get in the way.
Again, whether that's true or not, it could be a long-held bias or imagined understanding of the insecurity of the music field in that way. They definitely treat it like, I get a lot of parents that can treat it as a hobby, or that's a cool phase you're going to be going through.
Yeah, that's the thing. If their parents see this as a phase or something temporary or something like that, they're not going to want to invest in it, because they said, well, my kid has done archery and quit that. And
they see their kid as fickle.
Yeah, quit that. They've done horseback riding. They quit that. I've invested all this time and money into this stuff. Orchestra's just going to be another one of those things.
We've been on all those phone calls. I had a phone call with a parent not even a year ago where kid came in and was using didn't have a rental instrument, and his foot, and I called his folks and we're like, hey, have you guys secured a rental? What can I help with? Blah, 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 blah. And it was almost that verbatim, is kid A is fickle, and we're not sure if this is something he wants to do, and we don't want to get financially invested in something that he may quit within 6 months. Of course, we know why that's not the greatest idea in this particular instance, but I've seen that firsthand, anecdotally.
Being able to connect with that sense of adventure, I think is really important. I think that's something that other organizations do really well.
I like the idea of selling a sense of adventure, of this, again, because it hits on that novelty pillar of newness, of cool, of every day is going to be something a little bit new, and as you get better, you get to experience more new things. It's an exponential growth of newness if you can sell it right, where it's, you start here, but as you get better, that means more cool new things open up, and then more new cool things open up progressively.
Well, this has been a great conversation. Devon, I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate you watching. If you want to continue the conversation down in the comment section, I encourage you to drop a comment. What have you done in your recruitment that's been successful? What tips can you give that you think that other people can benefit from? And also, don't forget to share this content with others. Help us spread the content out. Help us continue the conversation, get this stuff going, because again, we want you to be a part of that hero arc. We want you to be successful in your program, and because orchestra can, even as a director, can take you to some pretty great places. So, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, folks.
Bed rest, and lots of it. Okay, 6 weeks of mandatory bed rest.